First contact, first blood. The sky above San Diego blood crimson as the sun set behind the naval base. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the deck of the U.S. Vigilant, watching the horizon with a sense of unease she couldn't shake. For 3 days, the world's astronomers had tracked the objects decelerating toward Earth, 7 massive structures now in high orbit. No nation had claimed responsibility, and the silence from the objects was deafening. Still nothing from SETI or NASA. Elena asked the communications officer beside her. Lieutenant James Chen shook his head. Nothing, Commander. All attempts at communication have gone unanswered. He hesitated. The President is addressing the nation in 10 minutes. Elena nodded, her dark eyes still fixed on the darkening sky. At 36, she had risen through the ranks faster than most, earning a reputation for unconventional thinking and calm under pressure. Both qualities would be tested tonight. Commander. A young ensign rushed toward them, tablet in hand. You need to see this. All 7 objects have deployed smaller craft. Hundreds of them, descending into the atmosphere. Elena grabbed the tablet, watching the satellite feed with growing alarm. The formations were too precise, too coordinated to be anything but military. General quarters, she ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. This isn't a first contact scenario anymore. It's an invasion. Alarms blared across the base as personnel rushed to battle stations. Elena strode toward the command center, already calculating defense scenarios in her mind. The U.S. Vigilant was one of the most advanced destroyers in the fleet, but against technology that could cross interstellar space, would that mean anything? The first explosion came without warning. The eastern perimeter of the base erupted in flame, the shock wave sending Elena sprawling across the deck. She scrambled to her feet, ears ringing, tasting blood from where she'd bitten her lip. Through the smoke, she saw them. Sleek, triangular craft with a metallic green sheen, moving with impossible agility. All batteries, open fire. She shouted into her comm unit, unsure if anyone could hear her through the chaos. The naval base's defense systems roared to life, missiles and artillery targeting the alien craft. A cheer went up as one of the triangular ships spiraled toward the ocean, trailing smoke. But 3 more appeared, firing weapons that seemed to distort the air itself. The command center disappeared in a blinding flash, vaporized so completely that not even debris remained. Elena stared in horror, knowing that Admiral Garrett and the entire command staff had been inside. Get to the secondary command post, she ordered the personnel around her. Move. Across the world, similar scenes were unfolding. The alien force, later known as the Phyrexian Empire, struck with surgical precision, targeting military installations, power plants, and communication hubs. Humanity's first official extraterrestrial contact came not with a greeting, but with the thunder of weapons fire. By dawn, the world's major military powers lay in ruins. Governments scrambled to coordinate a response, but with communications crippled and leadership decimated, chaos reigned. The Phyrexians established control of Earth's orbit, shooting down any attempt to launch counterattacks. 3 days after the initial assault, Elena found herself in the ruins of what had once been San Diego, leading a ragtag group of naval personnel and civilians. The city burned around them, alien craft patrolling the skies. "We can't stay here," said Dr. Maya Wong, a physicist who had been visiting the base when the attack came. Her lab coat was torn and stained with soot, but her eyes remained sharp and focused. "They're using some kind of ground-penetrating scan to find survivors." "Where do we go?" asked Chen, who had somehow stayed at Elena's side through the carnage. "They control the skies, and the highways are either destroyed or crawling with those things." Elena studied the map they'd salvaged from an abandoned police station. "Here," she said, pointing to a network of maintenance tunnels beneath the city. "We can use the old storm drainage system to move undetected." Their group, 23 survivors with a motley collection of weapons and supplies, slipped into the tunnels as darkness fell. The concrete passageways echoed with their footsteps and the distant rumble of explosions above. "Commander," Maya whispered as they navigated the labyrinth beneath the city, "I've been analyzing the data from my lab's long-range sensors. Before everything went dark, we detected something unusual about the alien ships." Elena paused, motioning for the others to continue ahead. "What kind of unusual?" "They're giving off a specific radiation signature in the upper microwave spectrum. It's like nothing I've ever seen, but it appears to be connected to their propulsion system." Maya pulled a small device from her pocket, a modified spectral analyzer. "And there's something else. When we hit that scout ship and it crashed, the radiation signature went haywire before disappearing." Elena considered this information. "You think we found a weakness?" "I think," Maya said carefully, "that their technology relies on a specific form of energy modulation we don't fully understand. But from what I observed, it appears to be highly sensitive to certain electromagnetic disruptions." A plan began to form in Elena's mind. If we could replicate whatever caused that disruption, we'd need equipment, components from their technology to study. Maya's expression was grim but determined. "And we'd need to get close enough to one of their ships to test any theories." The tunnel shook as something massive impacted the ground above them. Dust and small chunks of concrete rained down. "They're bombing the city," Chen said, his voice tight with anger. "Systematic destruction." Elena's jaw clenched. "Then we'll need to move fast. If they're bombing, it means they haven't found what they're looking for yet." "What would aliens want with Earth?" asked a civilian woman cradling a young child against her chest. "Resources, territory, maybe they just don't like sharing the galaxy," Elena replied. "Right now, the why matters less than survival." They continued through the tunnels until they reached an abandoned subway maintenance station. It would serve as a temporary shelter, somewhere to regroup and plan. As the others set up a makeshift command post, Elena found herself staring at a faded transit map on the wall. "We're not alone in this," she said quietly to Chen and Maya. "There have to be other survivors, other resistance forming. How do we find them?" Chen asked. "Communications are down, and the aliens control the electromagnetic spectrum." Maya tapped her analyzer thoughtfully. "Not entirely. Their focus seems to be on standard frequencies, military and civilian bands. If we could rig up something using unconventional wavelengths." "Do it," Elena ordered. "And I want everything you can tell me about that radiation signature. If the aliens have a weakness, we need to exploit it. Humanity needs a win, even a small one." For 2 weeks, they operated from the underground station, venturing to the surface only for essential supplies and intelligence gathering. The Vrexians had established processing centers throughout the city, rounding up humans for unknown purposes. Their ground forces, bipedal creatures with scaled skin and 4 arms, patrolled in groups, armed with weapons that could disintegrate a human in seconds. Elena's group grew as they rescued survivors from the processing centers. Each new person brought stories of similar resistance forming elsewhere. Humanity, it seemed, refused to go quietly. Then came their first real break. A patrol of 4 Vrexian soldiers ventured too close to one of their observation posts. Elena led the ambush personally, using tactics developed through painful trial and error. They knew now that the aliens relied heavily on advanced technology, but were physically less durable than humans. Vulnerability in their neck junctions proved fatal. The skirmish lasted less than 2 minutes. 3 Vrexians lay dead, with no human casualties. The 4th alien, wounded but alive, became their prisoner, and their first opportunity to study Vrexian technology up close. Maya worked feverishly to analyze the captured equipment. The alien's personal shield generator proved particularly valuable. "It's as I suspected," she told Elena after 3 days of non-stop work. "Their technology operates on principles similar to what I observed before. The shield creates a modulated energy field that's extraordinarily effective against conventional weapons." "But," Elena prompted, sensing there was more. But it's vulnerable to specific electromagnetic pulses, Maya explained, excitement breaking through her exhaustion. If calibrated precisely, an EMP could not just disable their shields but potentially cascade through their systems. It would require significant power and exact frequencies, but it's possible. For the first time since the invasion began, Alina felt something like hope. Can you build a prototype? Maya nodded slowly. With the right components, we'd need more of their technology and a power source strong enough to generate the pulse. The alien prisoner provided another crucial piece of information. Though communication was difficult, they'd managed to establish that the Phyrexians had come for Earth's water, not just any water, but specifically the vast quantities of liquid freshwater, a rarity in their home system. They see us as parasites on a resource-rich world, Chen translated roughly. Their empire spans dozens of systems, but most are arid. Earth is valuable. Elena stared at the alien, seeing not a monster but a soldier following orders. Tell them humanity doesn't surrender its home. Not now, not ever. As dawn broke on the 30th day of occupation, Elena stood before the assembled survivors, now numbering over 100. Their faces showed the strain of constant hiding, of losing loved ones and watching their world burn. But there was something else there too, determination. Today, we prove that humanity isn't defeated, she told them, her voice echoing off the tunnel walls. Maya's team has developed a device that can disrupt Phyrexian technology. It's small scale, limited range, but it works. We've confirmed it. She pointed to a map showing the Phyrexian command post established in what had once been a university research center. This facility contains communications equipment they use to coordinate their ground forces. We're going to hit it, hard and fast. We'll test our new weapon, gather intelligence, and show these invaders that Earth fights back. The plan was high risk, but after weeks of hiding and small-scale ambushes, they needed a victory that would resonate. As the strike team moved through the tunnels toward their target, Alina found herself thinking not just of the immediate battle, but of the war to come. If Maya's device worked as hoped, they could share the technology with other resistance cells. And if Earth could unite against this threat as it had never united before, perhaps there was a chance, slim but real, that humanity might survive. The future of the species would be decided not by those who fled or surrendered, but by those who stood and fought against impossible odds. And Commander Elena Reyes intended to fight. The resistance rises. 6 months into the Phyrexian occupation, Earth had become a different world. Major cities lay in ruins, their skylines transformed by alien architecture, processing towers that extracted water from the atmosphere and ground, distillation facilities that separated the components valuable to the invaders. The human population had been decimated, with millions dead, and millions more held in labor camps, working to extract the resource their conquerors desired most. Yet humanity endured. Across the planet, resistance movements operated with increasing coordination and effectiveness. The knowledge gained from Elena's first major strike had spread through carefully established channels, underground networks that used pre-digital communication methods to avoid detection. Radio systems operating on unconventional frequencies, courier networks, even modified Morse code transmitted through power lines. Elena's group had grown into something more organized, a resistance cell numbering nearly 500, operating from a network of abandoned mine shafts and natural caves 30 miles east of what remained of San Diego. Their success had made Commander Rice a symbol of resistance, her tactics studied and replicated by other cells across North America. The Denver cell reports success with the EMP device, reported Chen, now Elena's chief of intelligence. 6 months of fighting had aged him, a jagged scar running from his left temple to his jaw, where a Phyrexian weapon had nearly killed him. They disabled a water transport convoy and captured enough supplies to support their group for weeks. Elena nodded, studying the makeshift map table where they tracked known Phyrexian positions and resistance activities. Red markers showing alien strongholds still dominated, but the blue pins representing human resistance grew more numerous each week. "What about the communication device?" she asked. Maya, who had established a research division within their cave network, looked up from her work. The physicist had become as much a warrior as a scientist, necessity forcing her to apply her knowledge to increasingly lethal applications. "We've reverse-engineered enough of their technology to understand the basics," Maya explained. "They use a form of quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication across vast distances. We can't replicate it, but we figured out how to intercept and decode some of their transmissions." This breakthrough had provided invaluable intelligence. They now understood more about Phyrexian hierarchy, their command structure, and most importantly, their vulnerabilities. The aliens were not a monolithic force, but a complex society with internal politics and divisions. Their occupation forces stretched thin across the globe. "There's something else," Maya continued, her expression troubled. "Based on the transmissions we've decoded, they're accelerating water extraction. They've begun drilling operations targeting the deepest aquifers and the polar ice caps. At the current rate, they'll render Earth uninhabitable within 5 years." Silence fell over the command room. They had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed made the reality inescapable. The Phyrexians weren't interested in long-term occupation. They were stripping the planet bare. "Then we accelerate our plans," Alina said firmly. "Phase 2 needs to happen now, not 3 months from now." Phase 2 was ambitious. A coordinated global strike against Phyrexian communication hubs, designed to throw their command structure into chaos long enough for resistance forces to target critical extraction facilities. It would require synchronized actions from resistance cells on every continent, many of whom had never directly communicated with each other. "The courier network isn't complete," Chen warned. "We still don't have confirmed contact with groups in Eastern Europe and parts of Asia." "We adapt," Alina replied simply. "We start with the networks we have and create a cascading effect. As each region sees others rising up, they'll join." Dr. Ramirez, once a behavioral psychologist and now their chief medical officer, cleared his throat. "The Phyrexians have begun psychological operations in several regions. They're offering preferential treatment to humans who cooperate, better rations, protection for families. We're seeing increased collaboration in affected areas." Elena had witnessed this firsthand during a reconnaissance mission the previous month. Humans in Phyrexian uniforms, serving as intermediaries and enforcers. The aliens had studied Earth's history well, applying divide-and-conquer tactics with chilling efficiency. "Then our message needs to be stronger," she said. "We'd focused on survival and resistance. Now we need to offer hope. Not just that we can hurt them, but that we can win." The question hung unspoken. Could they win? The technological gap remained vast. For every Phyrexian ship they managed to disable, 3 more arrived in orbit. For every alien soldier killed, dozens of humans perished. Yet they had advantages the invaders hadn't anticipated. Humans were adaptable, innovative, and fought with the desperation of a species defending its only home. The Resistance had developed techniques to disrupt Phyrexian technology, tactics that exploited the aliens' reliance on sophisticated systems over physical resilience. Most importantly, they had begun to understand their enemy. The breakthrough came 3 weeks later, when a scout team returned from what should have been a routine reconnaissance mission with something extraordinary. A Phyrexian officer, captured alive and relatively unharmed during a patrol ambush. Unlike the lower-ranking soldiers they had encountered before, this one wore insignia indicating a command position. More importantly, it carried a data module that Maya's team immediately recognized as high value. "It's a complete tactical database," Maya explained after 2 days of non-stop analysis. The excitement in her voice was unmistakable as she addressed Alina's War Council. "Patrol routes, facility locations, security protocols, everything a field commander would need." Chen leaned forward. "Could it be misinformation? A trap?" "Possible, but unlikely," Maya replied. The encryption was extremely sophisticated. It took everything we've learned about their systems to crack it. If they wanted to plant false information, they wouldn't have made it so difficult to access. The data revealed something they had long suspected, but never confirmed. The Phyrexians maintained a central command ship in geosynchronous orbit over the Pacific Ocean. This vessel, nearly 3 miles in length, coordinated all ground operations and water extraction. More importantly, it housed the quantum communication array that linked Earth operations to the broader Phyrexian Empire. If we could disable that ship, Alina said slowly, we could isolate the occupation forces from their high command. Cut off reinforcements, at least temporarily. Disable a ship in orbit. Dr. Ramirez shook his head. Commander, that's beyond our capabilities. We can barely get our hands on ground vehicles, let alone spacecraft. Elena turned to Maya. The EMP technology we've developed, could it be scaled up? Amplified enough to reach orbit? The physicist considered for a long moment. Theoretically, yes, with sufficient power and the right delivery system. But we'd need access to one of their major facilities to generate that kind of energy burst. And we'd need to transmit the pulse with pinpoint accuracy, added Chen. Miss by even a fraction, and we'd waste our only shot. Elena walked to the map table, studying the marked locations of known Phyrexian installations. Her finger came to rest on a large red pin position near what had once been Seattle. The Northwestern Extraction Facility, she said. It's their largest water processing operation in North America. According to this data, it houses a direct communication link to the command ship. Maya's eyes widened as she understood. We could potentially hijack that link, use their own communication system to deliver the pulse directly to the ship. No atmospheric interference, no targeting issues. It would require getting inside their most heavily guarded facility, Chen pointed out. Even with our disruption technology, we'd be facing overwhelming odds. Not if we're not alone, Elena replied. She turned to the communications officer. Send word through all networks. Phase 2 begins in 3 weeks. All resistance cells are to target communication outposts simultaneously, creating maximum confusion while we strike the main facility. The room erupted in discussion, logistics, risks, contingencies. Elena let the conversation flow, observing the people who had become her most trusted allies. 6 months ago, they had been civilians, ordinary military personnel, people with normal lives. Now they were the vanguard of humanity's fight for survival. Preparations consumed every waking hour. Elena selected a strike team of 30, the most skilled fighters and technical experts from their ranks. Maya worked with her research team to construct an enhanced EMP device capable of generating a pulse strong enough to cripple the orbiting command ship. Engineers modified Phyrexian weapons and equipment they had captured, turning the aliens' technology against them. 3 days before the operation was set to begin, a courier arrived with news that nearly derailed everything. The Eastern European resistance network had been compromised. A high-ranking member had defected to the Phyrexians, trading information for protection. Several cells had been wiped out in coordinated raids. They know something's coming, Chen concluded after debriefing the courier. Maybe not the specifics, but they're on high alert. Elena faced a commander's hardest decision: proceed with a compromised plan or retreat and surrender initiative. After hours of deliberation with her core team, she made her choice. We adjust, but we don't abort, she announced. Move up the timetable. All North American operations begin in 36 hours. Send word to every cell that can still be reached. The final preparations took on a frantic quality. Equipment checks, route confirmations, contingency plans refined and memorized. Elena barely slept, reviewing the facility schematics extracted from the captured data module until she could navigate the complex in her mind. On the eve of the operation, she addressed the strike team. They gathered in what they called the war room, a natural cavern reinforced with salvaged materials, illuminated by LED lights powered by a cobbled-together solar system. Tomorrow, we take the fight directly to the enemy, she told them, her voice echoing off the stone walls. What we do isn't just about this mission, or even this region. It's about showing the world, and the Phyrexians, that humanity can hit back where it hurts. She looked at each face, committing them to memory. Some she had known since before the invasion. Others had joined along the way. All had lost someone. All carried scars, visible or hidden. "I won't promise that everyone will return," she continued, "but I promise that what we do tomorrow will matter. If we succeed, we create a vulnerability in their entire occupation structure. If we fail, we won't fail," Maya said firmly from her position near the equipment cache. "The science is sound. The plan is solid." Elena nodded gratefully. "Get some rest. We move out at 400. As the others dispersed, Chen remained behind. "Permission to speak freely, Commander." "When have you ever needed permission, James?" Elena replied with a faint smile. "The intelligence we gathered suggests the Phyrexians have begun constructing larger extraction facilities. They're committing more resources, not less." He paused. "Even if tomorrow is a complete success, we're just buying time." Elena's expression hardened. "Time is what we need. Time for more resistance cells to organize. Time for our understanding of their technology to improve. Every day we survived is another day we adapt." Chen studied her face. "You really believe we can win this war?" It wasn't a question, but Elena answered anyway. "I believe humans don't give up. We keep fighting, keep learning, keep evolving." The Phyrexians came expecting compliance or at most disorganized resistance. What they're getting is an entire species that refuses to be conquered. She gestured to the map showing resistance activity across the globe. "This isn't just about North America, or even Earth. If intelligent life exists elsewhere in the galaxy, how we respond to the Phyrexians matters. We're not just fighting for our survival. We're showing what humanity stands for." As dawn approached on Operation Day, Elena performed a final equipment check. The enhanced EMP device, a complex array of salvaged Phyrexian technology and human ingenuity, had been carefully packed for transport. Her personal weapons were cleaned and loaded, a modified M4 carbine and a sidearm, both fitted with special ammunition developed to penetrate Phyrexian personal shields. The strike team gathered at the cave entrance as the first light appeared on the horizon. They would travel in 3 separate groups, using different routes to approach the northwestern extraction facility. Elena would lead the primary assault team, while Maya headed the technical group responsible for the EMP device. Chen commanded the third team, tasked with creating a diversion on the opposite side of the complex. As they prepared to depart, Elena felt a strange calm settle over her. 6 months of hiding, planning, and small-scale operations had led to this moment. Whatever happened today would shape the resistance and humanity's future for years to come. "Remember," she told them as they moved out, "we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who can't fight, for everyone we've lost, and for a future where Earth belongs to humans again." The Northwestern Extraction Facility loomed in the distance, its alien architecture a stark reminder of how much had changed, and what they stood to lose if they failed. Humanity unleashed. Dawn broke over the ruins of what had once been Seattle as Elena's strike team approached the Northwestern Extraction Facility. The massive structure dominated the landscape, a twisted spire of alien metal rising nearly 1,000 feet into the air, surrounded by processing plants and security perimeters. Phyrexian transport craft moved in regular patterns around the complex, ferrying extracted water to ships waiting in low orbit. From their observation point in an abandoned office building 2 miles from the facility, Elena studied the defenses through high-powered binoculars. The intelligence from the captured data module had been accurate. Security patrols followed the predicted routes, and the facility's layout matched their schematics. "All teams, check in," she murmured into her communications device, a hybrid of human and Phyrexian technology that allowed secure, short-range communication. "Technical team in position," came Maya's response. Her group had circled around to approach from the western perimeter, where power conduits entered the facility underground. "Diversion team ready," Chen reported. His team had positioned themselves near the southern entrance, where supply transports regularly arrived. Elena checked her watch, a simple mechanical timepiece that wouldn't be affected by the electromagnetic disruption they were about to unleash. Synchronize for 0 hour in 15 minutes. Remember, we're looking for confusion, not prolonged engagement. Get in, complete objectives. Get out. Around the world, other resistance cells were preparing for simultaneous strikes against Vrexian communication outposts. The coordinated attack, humanity's first global offensive since the invasion, would stretch the aliens' response capabilities and, they hoped, create enough chaos to mask their primary objective. "Something's wrong," said Corporal Rodriguez, one of the former Marines who had joined Elena's group early in the resistance. "The patrol schedule has changed. They've doubled the guards at the main entrance." Elena swung her binoculars toward the facility's primary access point. Rodriguez was right. Where there should have been 4 Vrexian soldiers, now 8 stood at alert, their weapons primed. "They're expecting something," she said grimly. "Chen, do you have eyes on the southern entrance?" "Affirmative," came the response. "Same situation here. Doubled security, elevated posture." This wasn't just random heightened security. The Vrexians knew an attack was coming. The question was, how much did they know? Had they identified the northwestern facility as the primary target, or were they simply increasing security at all installations? Elena made a quick decision. "All teams, adjust to Contingency Plan Delta." I repeat, Contingency Delta. They had prepared for this possibility. Instead of 3 simultaneous approaches, Chen's team would now execute their diversion 5 minutes early, drawing attention and forces to the southern perimeter. Elena's team would delay their assault until security resources had been redirected, approaching from the east rather than the north. Maya's technical team would proceed as planned. Their route through the maintenance tunnels likely remained the safest option. "Diversion team acknowledges," Chen responded. "Executing in 10 minutes." Elena turned to her team, 10 men and women armed with modified weapons and grim determination. This just got harder, but not impossible. "Remember your training. Remember why we're here." Exactly 5 minutes before the globally coordinated attack was set to begin, Chen's team struck. From her observation point, Elena watched as a series of explosions rocked the southern perimeter of the facility. The charges, planted days earlier by infiltrators, created the impression of a major assault force. As predicted, Vrexian security forces rushed to respond, transport vehicles speeding toward the presumed breach. "Primary team, move out," Elena ordered, leading her squad toward the now less defended eastern approach. They encountered the first resistance 300 yards from the perimeter, a patrol of 4 Vrexian soldiers investigating the disturbance. Elena signaled her team to deploy their first technological advantage: small disc-shaped devices that emitted a targeted electromagnetic pulse when activated. 2 of her team members slid the discs across the ground toward the aliens. When they came within 5 yards, Rodriguez triggered them remotely. The effect was instantaneous. The Vrexians' personal shields flickered and failed, their communication devices emitting high-pitched whines as they malfunctioned. Before the aliens could recover, Elena's team opened fire with silenced weapons. The skirmish lasted less than 30 seconds, with all 4 Vrexians neutralized and no human casualties. "Technical team, status," Elena whispered into her comm as they dragged the bodies out of sight. "We've breached the maintenance tunnel," Maya reported, her voice slightly distorted by interference from the facility's power systems. "Minimal resistance so far. EMP device intact and functional." According to their intelligence, the communication array, their primary target, was located near the center of the facility, protected by multiple security layers. Maida's team needed to reach a specific junction box that linked the facility's internal network to the orbiting command ship. Elena's group encountered heavier resistance as they approached the perimeter fence. A security checkpoint stood between them and the facility proper, staffed by 6 Vrexian guards. Unlike the patrol they had ambushed, these were equipped with more advanced weapons and armor. "We can't use the EMP discs here," Rodriguez warned. "Too much electronic monitoring. They'd detect the electromagnetic signature immediately." Elena nodded, studying the checkpoint. "We need a distraction that looks natural. No signs of an attack." Sergeant Rivera, a former Army Ranger, pointed to a supply transport approaching the checkpoint from inside the facility. "We could use that. Make it look like a mechanical failure." The plan came together quickly. 2 team members with engineering backgrounds moved into position near the transport's expected route, equipped with a modified Vrexian weapon that could emit a narrow, focused energy beam. When the transport passed by, they fired at its propulsion system, a precise shot that caused the vehicle to lose control without exploding. The transport careened into the checkpoint, creating exactly the kind of confusion they needed. As the Vrexian guards rushed to respond to what appeared to be an accident, Elena's team slipped past the perimeter, using the smoke and chaos as cover. "We're inside," Elena reported, moving to Phase 2 positions. Inside the facility, the environment changed dramatically. The architecture was distinctly alien. Corridors curved in unnatural angles. Lighting pulsed with a greenish hue that made human eyes water. The air carried a metallic taste, a byproduct of the water extraction process. They moved through the complex using service corridors identified in the stolen schematics, avoiding the main thoroughfares where Vrexian workers would be concentrated. Twice they were forced to hide as patrols passed, pressing themselves into recessed alcoves designed for maintenance equipment. "Technical team has reached the junction." Maya's voice came through the comm, tense but controlled. "Beginning setup now. We'll need 15 minutes to calibrate the device." "Understood," Elena replied. "We're proceeding to the security center." Their secondary objective was equally crucial. Neutralizing the facility's internal security systems would prevent the Vrexians from detecting Maya's team until it was too late. According to their intelligence, the security center was located 2 levels below their current position. They located an access shaft used for transporting equipment between levels. One by one, they descended, using climbing gear adapted for the smooth alien metals. The shaft opened into a dimly lit corridor that hummed with energy. They were approaching the facility's power distribution network. "Security center should be 50 meters ahead," Rodriguez reported, consulting a handheld device that translated the Vrexian navigational markings on the walls. They rounded a corner and found themselves facing exactly what they had feared most: a full security detail, 8 Vrexian soldiers accompanying what appeared to be a high-ranking officer. There was no time to retreat, no cover to hide behind. Detection was instantaneous. The ensuing firefight was brutal and swift. The human resistance fighters had the advantage of surprise and their modified weapons, designed specifically to counter Vrexian defenses. But the aliens had numbers and position. Elena felt a searing pain as an energy bolt grazed her left arm, burning through her combat jacket and searing the flesh beneath. She returned fire, her modified carbine-emitting rounds coated with a compound that disrupted the alien shield's energy matrix. 3 Vrexians fell in the initial exchange. 2 resistance fighters went down. Rivera with a wound to his leg. Wilson hit directly in the chest, instantly killed. "Push forward," Elena shouted, activating one of their larger EMP devices. The corridor lights flickered as the pulse disrupted the facility's systems. The remaining Vrexians' weapons malfunctioned momentarily, just long enough for Elena's team to close the distance. The fight became hand-to-hand, humans using combat knives against the aliens' superior strength and multiple limbs. What the Vrexians hadn't counted on was humanity's long history of close-quarters combat. Where the aliens relied on technology, humans had millennia of experience fighting with primitive weapons. When the last Vrexian fell, Elena's team had lost another member, and most of the survivors were wounded. They secured the corridor and continued toward the security center, now just 20 meters ahead. "Technical team, status?" Elena asked, applying a quick field dressing to her burned arm. No response came. "Maya," Report. She tried again, dread building in her stomach. The comm unit crackled with static before Maya's voice finally came through, barely audible. We've been compromised. Vrexian security found our entry point. We're pinned down at the junction. A pause, punctuated by the sound of weapons fire. The device is ready, but we can't activate it from here.